So it's been a while since I've posted a video on YouTube about anything boxing related. Um, I'll give you a little bit about my background later, but uh, there were some good fights the other night, so I just kind of want to comment on a few things in regards to some of these fights in the last couple weeks, and also comment on some of the ridiculous stuff that I read in comment sections on YouTube and fight news and boxing scene. And I've been around boxing since roughly 2006, writing articles, covering events. I've been to many live boxing matches as a member of media. Not involved in boxing, pretty much not at all anymore. And part of that is because of just some of the garbage that I read from people that really don't know the details of the business. They go and criticize other fighters when they have a good performance and they make comparisons. So before I go on too much into that rant, what I saw yesterday, they had a Showtime fight with Regis Prograis against Julius Indongo. A little background on the fighters. The fight was for the WBC interim 140-pound championship. Prograis is an undefeated fighter. I believe he was 19-0 with about 17 KOs. Pretty good record. He's beaten some pretty good fighters considering, that guys are going to fight moving up, some undefeated guys, some journeyman type guys. This was his first real step up against Indongo, whose last fight was in a unification match with Terrence Crawford, which he lost by third round knockout, body shot. So yesterday, Prograis went in there, and he won very impressively with a second-round knockout. I believe he knocked him down about 3 or 4 times in 2 rounds. And now I go to some message boards and comment sections on various videos, post-fight videos of the fight, and I see people criticizing Indongo and Terrence Crawford because he was beaten by Regis Prograis. And most of the comments I've read were negative. Not very many of them giving Prograis a whole lot of credit for the victory, which in my mind that's kind of the problem I've had with boxing in the last few years is people will post videos like how would you say it? People will go online and they'll post these clickbait videos with these catchy headlines, and sometimes I fall for them because sometimes I just want to read stuff about boxing, or I want to listen to a video while I'm in my car or whatnot, because I love the sport of boxing and I love to hear people's opinions on it when it's valid. But when I have to read people, and when I'm reading about people arguing about who's racist and who's not, and if you say something negative about a fighter, you're racist, or if you follow one certain type of fighter, you're a racist or race baiting, or all this crap to me that has nothing to do with fighter performances. It seems like there's more videos out there that are about gossip, like high school gossip, than there is about the actual fighters themselves. I mean, I see videos on YouTube with hundreds of thousands of views talking about absolutely nothing that is valid in the sport of boxing, and it's just really kind of rubs me the wrong way. It's even there was a fight a couple weeks ago with Deontay Wilder against Luis Ortiz, and it's a really good fight. And I think some of this stuff, I think everybody is kind of guilty of, because they get so emotional with sports, which I don't know why, but so I guess you could kind of say like I'm kind of making a rant video in a sense, but some of this stuff has just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and I just kind of wanted to talk about it because I think some of this stuff is kind of the reason why boxing in general is not as popular as it used to be, is because the people who are actually covering and talking about the sport nowadays, for the most part, or who are considered uh, I wouldn't consider them media, but they're people that people follow. So I go online, and when I started writing about boxing in 2006, the people who were writing about boxing actually had to like know something about the sport, or at least were held to a standard where if they didn't know anything and they were writing stuff about the sport, they wouldn't be lasting very long. So now you get people, they have a YouTube channel, and they think because they have like 20,000 YouTube subscribers that makes them somehow valid, which they're valid in a sense because they have subscribers, but whatever they're talking about really is, it's like a gossip site to me. And I think people take what some of these sites, what people say, as truth when the majority of the stuff they're saying is BS. And that's what really bothers me, because you read about rumors, you read about stuff that people say. A lot of times what they say somebody said, they didn't really say it or was taken out of context. And then you get people on, and mind you, I don't have a Twitter, or I do have a Twitter account, but I probably have not used that Twitter account in about 2 years. I have Instagram. I just don't get involved with social media because to me, to comment about something takes more than 140 characters or whatnot. So I like to comment about things and give people my opinion on stuff, and most of my opinions are based on what I've seen. I've been around this business for a long time, and I'm not so quick to criticize fighters, because at the end of the day, fighters, they're the ones that go in the ring, they're the ones that take the punishment, they're there to feed their family. And when I read comments about people, they say, oh, so-and-so's a coward, they want to fight this guy, they want to fight that guy, and they just don't see the bigger picture on how the business runs. Majority of people I see on these videos that are talking all this crap behind a computer, they never been in a fight in their life. And I'm not saying you need to be in a fight or be a fighter to be a critic of boxing. That's not what I'm trying to say. But what I'm trying to say is to criticize somebody without having the knowledge and the understanding of what it takes to be a professional prize fighter. And I've known quite a few people that are, prize fighters. Maybe some of them were not pros, some were amateurs. I've met many pros. Just the disrespect towards boxers in general, and not just world-class fighters, the disrespect that goes to the guys you see out there that are essential to the sport as far as building records. So I'll use an example. There's fighters out there that you could look at, and they might have a lot of losses, all right? So you see a guy, he's 22 and 25. So he's got 25 losses. He's got 22 wins. If you go to BoxRec and look at those type of fighters, who they've been fighting, those guys are used to pad about 15 or 20 undefeated prospects records. So a lot of these guys are like the lifeblood of the business. These are guys that take a lot of punishment for people's entertainment, and then they get criticized, or when people call somebody a bum or whatnot. And I know I'm kind of getting off topic here, or I don't really, today I don't even really have a topic. I'm just kind of venting a little bit of my displeasure with not boxing in general, but the way fans perceive the sport of boxing and how people use websites like YouTube to push their own agenda so they can try to make money off advertising by talking about stuff that's this. To me, it's either it's not true, or at the same time it's just designed to piss people off. So if you say something negative about somebody, all right, so it's almost like Floyd Mayweather. It's like if you have a bad attitude, or if you're a jerk, people want to see you lose. And then they make comments, they go to your website, and they argue with you because you said something about what Abel Sanchez said about black people, and then they come to your website and they're leaving you hate comments, or they say you're racist or race baiter. But you know what? It's like when you respond to people who have nothing positive to say or anything constructive, you're actually feeding, into the monster. You're feeding into what they want, and to me, it's just been very disheartening for me to want to get involved back into the boxing business. And obviously, anything you want to be involved in, you want there to be some type of profit margin. I guess if you're going to spend a lot of time, invest time into something, you want to see a profit margin as time goes by. And for me to go and post videos on YouTube to talk about garbage and crap and stuff, to me that's not sensible and that's irrelevant in the bigger scheme of things in boxing. If I have to stoop to that level to continue being involved in the sport of boxing, I'm not willing to do that. So I hope people subscribe to my channel so I can dedicate some time to talking about things that are important, doing reviews of fights, previews, start doing some journalism again, and going to fights, doing interviews. I got another buddy of mine, Johnny Signorella, who was also writing. We used to write for ringtalk.com years ago, and we'd like to do some stuff together. But if I got to stoop to BS to do it, I ain't gonna do it. So that's pretty much all I got to say. I mean, I'm gonna definitely try to keep posting videos. Hopefully one a day if I can. If I have something to talk about or something I want to discuss in regards to upcoming fights. Tonight there's actually a pretty good fight. Mikey Garcia against Sergey Lipinets. Lipinets is the 140-pound IBF champion, and he's fighting Mikey Garcia, who's won multiple championships. I believe he's the 135-pound champion right now for the WBC. He's been trying to make a fight, apparently, with Vasyl Lomachenko and Jorge Linares, who is one of the champions at 135. Lomachenko is a champion at 130. They've been unsuccessful in making those fights for whatever the reason is. I see a lot of people pointing fingers on Garcia for the most part because you know how it is. It's at least from what I see, especially reading comments on message boards, stuff from different journalists in boxing, whether they be I'm not even gonna name the names. I mean, people know who's on what side, but the bottom line is those fights haven't been made yet, and whoever's fault that is really irrelevant. He should be in a pretty good fight tonight. I think he's gonna win. I just read he's a 20-1 favorite, so more than likely he's been looking good in camp. I'm sure he's prepared. Lipinets didn't look so great his last time out, but obviously he fought an opponent that he probably didn't know a whole lot about, and it definitely was a difficult challenge for him. So, and then there's another fight on that undercard for another 140-pound championship. I'm not going to really discuss that too much. Tonight I see, based on what I've seen of both of these guys, Garcia I see winning a decision. I don't see him winning by knockout because I don't think he's really a 140-pounder as far as like punching power, but he's a great boxer. And Lipinets seems more natural at the weight. So I think it's going to be a good fight, but I think it's going to be like a 116, 112 type of fight, maybe 117, 111. I don't see Lipinets getting stopped, but you never know. Lipinets didn't have a lot of experience. And also tonight, which is Saturday, March 10th, will be the ESPN show, with the main event being Oscar Valdez against Scott Quigg, who is, I believe he's from Northern Ireland, or he's he's from Great Britain. I don't know which part of Great Britain he's from, but he's a former 122 pound champion. This guy, Scott Quigg, I mean, I have not been all that impressed with him at all. I mean, since he'd had that loss against Carl Frampton, I mean, I haven't really seen him fight at all since then. But before that, before he fought Frampton, he hadn't really beaten anybody in my mind. I mean, he was highly ranked. He had a WBA regular title. He didn't want to fight Guillermo Rigondeaux for whatever reason that was. So he had that paper title, and then he basically laid an egg against Carl Frampton. And I don't think he's going to beat Oscar Valdez, who's a natural featherweight. He's got good punching power. Loads up on every shot, but I just haven't been all that impressed by Quigg. So, and Top Rank is like, or I think Brad Goodman is their matchmaker, and I mean, he's like one of the best in the. I mean, Top Rank's matchmaking is like excellent. I mean, their prospect or their guy, their A-side fighter, almost never loses in a fight unless it's a big fight where, you know, if their guy loses, they're going to get paid to put him in there with someone tough. Because look at Manny Pacquiao and Terrence Crawford, for example. There's been plenty of time that these guys could have fought. And for whatever reason, Manny Pacquiao and Terrence Crawford have not been able to fight. I mean, it's a big fight, but I don't know why that fight has not been able to come to fruition. Mainly probably because Pacquiao feels he'll get beat. So it's I don't know. The thing about boxing nowadays is like even this Luis Ortiz and Deontay Wilder fight from about a week or so ago. Much criticism as some of these promoters or companies get, like PBC and Top Rank, or all of them get criticized by everybody. At the end of the day, I hate using that phrase because it's just so annoying to me. Everybody uses it, but somehow it just rolls off my tongue. But if a fighter wants to fight anybody and he's willing to fight anybody, he can make the fights. So a lot of the blame needs to be put on the fighters. And I'm not saying that guys are ducking or this and that, but if a fight doesn't get made, usually it's because the fighters don't want the fight. And that doesn't mean they're ducking or whatnot, but so for example, Deontay Wilder was willing to fight Luis Ortiz. If he didn't want to fight Luis Ortiz, the promoter or his manager, Al Heyman, or advisor Al Heyman, wasn't going to force him to go and fight Luis Ortiz. He wanted to fight Ortiz to prove himself, and it was a great fight. And that's the attitude I think fans want to see in the fighters that are out there today. They want their fighters to be willing to fight anybody. And I think even if Wilder was to lose, I think his stock probably would have rose, because I think people have respect for the way that he went through adversity. Maybe if he would have got knocked out, he would have got criticized, but he still got criticized by winning. And I mean, I was critical, but I was more critical because I had already been critical of his lackluster boxing skills. But at the same time, it's when you take chances and you lose, it's kind of like Luis Ortiz went in there and he lost, but he gained more in a loss than he did in any of those fights that he won. So I think that is kind of the lesson, and I'll probably end it there. The lesson that I kind of want to put out there is, I think if fighters just go out there and worry less about losing and more about taking chances and putting out a great performance, I think they'll actually get more fans that way. They'll get more notoriety. It'll make the sport better because people remember good fights more than they remember great performances, if that makes any sense. because at the end of the day, it's great to say you're the pound for pound best fighter in the world, but if you've never been challenged, that's not exciting to see somebody that's so dominant that when they go in there, it's like an exhibition every time. You know, like Roy Jones, when Roy Jones was fighting all those cab drivers and the people that he was fighting back in the day, he'd get criticized for that until he fought that first fight with Antonio Tarver and showed a little bit of heart. He almost got knocked out, but I think people kind of respected him a little more. I mean, not that he fought great in that fight or anything, but he fought through some adversity, and I kind of think that's what people are looking for in boxing. Is people are looking for fighters to go through adversity, and I think that adversity is what makes boxing the sport so great that it is, and I think that's something that people really need to remember. All right, I'm out. Subscribe if you can. If you don't matter to me, but I need to get some subscribers if I'm going to keep posting these videos, so please subscribe.